This channel explores moments of self-reflection that arise in everyday life. We speak but hold back. In Western cultures, speaking openly is often associated with confidence. Direct expression is encouraged, and saying what you think is seen as honesty. Silence can sometimes be interpreted as uncertainty. Korea developed under geographical and agricultural conditions different from the West. Rice cultivation, the primary livelihood, required collective water management and transplanting seedlings within a short seasonal window. Because this labor was impossible for a single household, neighbors had to cooperate intensely. In a society dependent on such bonds, being considerate of others became essential. Over time, this attentiveness evolved into what is called nunchi, the ability to sense the atmosphere before speaking. In such tightly bound communities, standing out could be difficult. Individual expression was sometimes softened to preserve harmony. To some observers, nunchi may look like restraint or self-suppression, but within its historical context, it developed as social awareness shaped by interdependence. Still, the boundary can be thin. Awareness can become constant self-monitoring, and consideration may turn into hesitation. Same behavior, different structure. And perhaps the deeper question is this: when I hold back my words, am I practicing awareness or suppressing myself?
What would you honestly say?
We are alone but need approval. Today, identity is often shaped by recognition. Without response, we begin to question whether we still exist, as we are. Jean-Paul Sartre once wrote, "If you are lonely when you're alone, you are in bad company." His words suggest that identity is not proven by applause. It is revealed in solitude and steadied without applause. If recognition disappears, something inside us becomes uncertain. That uncertainty reveals more than approval ever could. Maybe identity has grown more dependent on approval than we realized. First, approval accelerates comparison. Value becomes measurable through response rather than reflection. Second, approval creates performance. We learn to present versions of ourselves designed for reception. And third, approval can quietly redefine identity. We begin adjusting tone, opinion, even conviction to remain acceptable. Over time, the self shifts from something discovered to something managed. And in that shift, self-worth becomes something we manage for response, rather than something we hold with conviction. So now, what if you asked yourself, who am I when there is no audience to affirm me? And if approval vanished, what part of me would remain unchanged?
What would you honestly say?
We act kind but perform. Kindness is often praised as a visible virtue and easily recognized. Immanuel Kant once wrote, "An action is only truly moral when it is done from duty, not from inclination." His words suggest that goodness is not measured by appearance. It rests in intention and remains steady when no one is watching. When kindness seeks recognition, something within it subtly changes. And that change can reveal more about us than the act itself. Maybe the concern is not kindness itself, but the need for it to be seen. First, visibility can turn kindness into display. Acts once done quietly begin to seek acknowledgement. Second, repetition can normalize performance. What began as sincerity slowly adapts to expectation. And third, performance reshapes motivation. We may start helping not only to care, but also to be perceived as caring. And then, kindness becomes something we manage for impression, rather than something we practice with integrity. So now, what if you asked yourself, when I act kindly, would I still do so without recognition? And if no one noticed, would my intention remain the same?
What would you honestly say?
We become, but it's shaped. We often think of character as something personal and self-directed. Yet much of who we become unfolds within systems we did not design. Michel Foucault once observed, "Power is everywhere, not because it embraces everything, but because it comes from everywhere." His words suggest that influence is rarely dramatic. Systems can gradually shape the kind of person we become. They operate quietly through structures, routines, and expectations, shaping more than just our behavior. The shaping rarely feels forceful. It feels normal. First, systems establish incentives. What is rewarded begins to guide attention and effort. Second, repetition forms habit. What is practiced daily slowly becomes character. And third, institutions define limits. What is permitted feels reasonable. What is not permitted fades from imagination. And over time, adaptation becomes indistinguishable from choice. And we may find that our convictions have quietly aligned with the structures around us, without us ever consciously choosing them. So now, what if you asked yourself, which parts of my character were shaped by deliberate choice, and which were formed by the systems I rarely question?
What would you honestly say?
We repeat, but become it. We rarely decide who we become in a single moment. More often, we are shaped by what we repeatedly practice. Aristotle once wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. His words suggest that character is not formed by intention alone. It develops through repetition. Every small action trains something within us. And over time, those quiet repetitions begin to define our future. The training rarely feels intentional. It feels ordinary, almost invisible in daily life. First, attention becomes habit. What we repeatedly focus on begins to shape what we value, quietly narrowing what we consider important. Second, reaction becomes character. How we respond each day gradually defines how we think and what we believe is acceptable. And third, repetition normalizes direction. What we practice without question becomes the path we follow. Through what we repeatedly notice and how we consistently respond, our future character quietly takes shape. So now, what if you asked yourself, what am I training myself to become through my daily habits? And if nothing changed, who would I become in 5 years?
What would you honestly say? See you in the next video.